history, you can draw a straight line from slavery and the plantation to Jim Crow and segregation to the drug war and mass incarceration. A straight line. And what we can do here today with these movements and movements like this is to start making the changes that we need in our criminal justice system. And I got to pull out some notes because I can't remember all the stats off the top of my head, but just to illustrate, that straight line through American history. African Americans are incarcerated at a rate 5.1 times the imprisonment of whites. In 12 states, more than half the prison population is black. And you can see the vestiges of slavery and Jim Crow in this list. Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, Mississippi, North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, Maryland, and Delaware is on that list. Delaware's prison population is 60% black. Delaware's population is 23%. When you look at things like home confinement and probation, you see what people who work in my line of work already know, that when two people are charged with the same thing, a white man and a young black man, the white man gets probation or home confinement. The young black man is sent to jail. Level 4 home confinement is 55% white and 42% black, and probation is 51% white and 43% black. Now, these outcomes don't just happen. Delaware doesn't have the 4th highest incarceration rate of black males in the country. These things don't just happen. It's a product of systemic racism, and I would suggest that there's 3 primary factors that contribute to what you see happening in the criminal justice system, and 3 areas where we need to reform the most. 1, the drug war. Everybody uses drugs. White people, black people, but what do we see? White people don't even get arrested. Black people go to jail. And it's the root, it's the way to keep incarceration numbers where they're at. It's the way to criminalize blackness, is to take something that everybody does and make it criminal and put harsh penalties in place if you violate those laws. Everybody consumes drugs. So what we need to do as advocates, as citizens, is demand a change. Demand a change to those laws. We have to end the drug war. That's step 1. And it starts this year. We're going to legalize cannabis, but it doesn't end there. It doesn't end at marijuana or weed or whatever you want to call it. It continues after that. And it's not just legalizing things. It's getting rid of the minimum mandatory penalties for selling it. It's getting rid of enhanced penalties for selling it. And it's ending the targeting of black neighborhoods. If you drove around Wild Quail the same way that you drive around New Street, Queen Street, and you pulled over young white men at the country club, you would find a similar percentage of them are in possession of drugs. And you would find a similar percentage of them are selling drugs. Because white people sell drugs too. But what we see in the criminal justice system, who gets arrested, who gets sentenced to harsh penalties, it's primarily young black men. So step 1 is end the drug war. The second reason why we submit that there's disparity in our system is implicit bias. And everybody has it. I have it, you have it, everybody here has biases. Race, gender, sexuality, there's so many different biases that people have. We have to recognize them, obviously not act on them, and we have to do things to eliminate bias in policing. And one thing that we can do, we can train people to eliminate bias in policing, but the primary way that we can change bias in policing is make police forces look more like the communities that they're policing.
Amen.
When you look at Delaware State Police, 86% white, 14% minority, and they're policing in neighborhoods that are predominantly made up of people of color. The Wilmington Police Department, 64% white, even though Wilmington is nearly 60% African American. And here in Dover, our police force is 81% white, despite black people making up 46% of the population. White people 44. There's more black people in Dover, but 80% of the police force is white. There's very few black prosecutors. I work with them. You almost never see it. And the problem is, less than 8% of people in law school are African American, and less than 5% of law firm associates are African American. Less than 2% of partners. So the people that are prosecuting these crimes, the people that are being court appointed to these cases, you know, it's often people who are white, you know, and so we lack representation, not just on the bench, where, you know, here in Dover, we have 3 judges, 3 white males. You go down to Georgetown, 3 judges, 3 white males.